Welcome to Building Great People, the podcast where we explore how leaders in business and community are shaping the future by investing in the people who make it all happen. Let's get started. All right, welcome back to another great episode of Building Great People. We are so excited to have Dave Dessauer here. He is with the Tennessee Small Business Development Center at Austin Peay, and we're just very honored to have you in our building at the press, actually, but just to get to know you over the past few months and all the great things you're doing. Would love to just kind of learn a little bit more about Dave to kick us off.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here and just to set the stage and give you a little bit about my background. So I currently serve as the director for the Small Business Development Center at Austin Peay State University. And before that, have had a pretty extensive background in several places around the country. Originally, I'm from Louisiana.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
But have spent time in different places, mainly in colleges and universities.
Okay.
And a lot of my time spent in those places has been focused on leadership development. So a lot of what's been core to my career is growing and scaling programs for college students and young adults, really to realize their leadership potential.
Yeah.
And, spent some time in Louisiana getting my career started.
Yeah.
Before moving to the DC area and working at a university there.
Oh, wow.
Spending some time in Texas at a large university there.
Yeah.
And then some life circumstances had us really just randomly end up in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I landed at another university.
Yeah.
So was there at Austin Peay, working in the College of Business, and was the career readiness coach there for a few years before an opportunity became available with the Small Business Development Center. In between those two things, some important things happened in my life as well, which was, I pursued some of my own ventures. One of those being getting a certification in professional and executive coaching. Okay. Dabbling in my own business venture. Yeah. But then along the way, learning about this thing, the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, and either by proximity or luck, fate, whatever you might call it, had the opportunity to join the organization. Yeah. And so have been with the SBDC since late October of last year, and have been serving as a director since December.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have been very blessed here at 𝗟𝗄𝗄 Enterprises and also the press to be working with the Small Business Development Center for several years, actually since our inception about 3 years ago. We've been involved at different levels with y'all, and then through our commercial management team, our commercial real estate side, trying to get people to use your resources as best as possible. But then also working with people that y'all, send over our way to work with leases. And for our audience today, this is a little bit different. We usually talk strictly more about leadership, and this kind of diverges more into the entrepreneurial world. But I think it's actually a great marriage that is really important. And you talked about coaching there for a second, and some of your background is coaching people in many different aspects, but also on the professional side as well. So I think for us, this is applicable, and leadership, while isn't always about leading one person or multiple people, it can be leading a company, right? Or starting a company. And that involves leadership. It's grit, it's ambition, it's direction. It's learning what questions you should ask and seeking help when you should seek help. So before we kind of get into the meat of today, I'd love to learn a little bit more just about what is the Tennessee Small Business Development Center? What is that?
Yeah. Well, if you can believe it, there are places that exist across Tennessee whose sole purpose is to help aspiring and existing business owners to start, grow, and sustain their businesses at no cost to that business owner whatsoever. And those are small business development centers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing resource. So in Tennessee alone, there are 15 Tennessee Small Business Development Centers.
Wow.
And even those centers are part of a network of other centers across the country. So in our center here, we serve not only Clarksville and Montgomery County, but also 6 other counties surrounding Montgomery. Okay. And any person, literally any person who resides in one of those counties can utilize our services. So if they want to start a business, they can come to us for guidance. If they have a business, but they're facing a challenge or want to grow to that next level, they can come to us. Yeah. And we offer consulting services, like literally one-to-one advising to help them get that business going. Yeah. Or navigate that challenge, as well as a variety of training opportunities whether those are virtual or in person, that people can really upskill and learn more about business topics in order to receive the kind of support that they need to move their business forward.
Now, I know you've helped some of our tenants or prospective tenants with business plans before. Is that a part of what you offer?
Absolutely. It is a core part of what we do.
Okay.
You know, a lot of times people will come in with a great idea for their business and a lot of passion for it. But what's missing is, what would the day-to-day of this really look like?
Yeah.
So while it might not have to be, you know, that 15-page business plan, having the plan for your business is something really important, particularly at the start.
Yeah, and being realistic. Yeah, we see that quite often, and I work. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people, and there's so many passions out there. And someone who is a person who strives to be educated in small business in general, leadership. It's something that's like, man, I want people to not view work as work, right? Because now you're involved in your passion, but there's a trap there too sometimes that you want to do that. And that's kind of what we're told we should go strive for, but you fall into this trap of first, you think it's going to make money. Sometimes the reality is it just isn't. And that's an unfortunate thing. But then sometimes that passion becomes a hatred for whatever that is. I've seen that happen too. And so I personally, I love soccer. I love playing soccer. I used to coach soccer, you know, and maybe one day I'd love to have a business that does soccer. But if I did that, maybe I wouldn't love soccer anymore because I fell into, I have to do this as a life now in order to survive. So talk to us about that. What have you seen there? Yeah,
I'd say my experiences certainly mirror that. You know, one of the analogies that I give to people who are really thinking about starting a business is it's almost kind of like inviting someone who you think would be a great roommate to come and live with you. You know, it's like, this is going to be fantastic. We're going to have so much fun together. It's going to be amazing. And then they move in and it's great for a week, but then a month goes by, but then a few months go by, and then they just start to kind of be there. And then they're like eating your food, and they're, you know, they're hogging the remote. So they're streaming whatever they want to stream. And you're like, this isn't fun anymore. You know, having that like thing, that presence that's always hanging around you, that's kind of what starting a business is like. You know, a lot of people say, hey, I want to start a business because like I want the freedom.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing. You know, there's that saying that like the things that you own end up owning you. You know, that's usually for like material types of things, but it's true in business too. You know, it can easily be something that consumes your time, your money, your resources. And something like you said, people start to resent. You know, it has become something that I never really wanted in the first place. Despite how passionate I was starting it in the beginning. I had the opportunity a few years ago to tour just an amazing facility that I brought my kids to many different times. They have different outdoor activities and in many ways a magical place for children and families to visit. And I remember having an opportunity to meet the owners, and we took a background tour of it. And I walked away sad because I was sad that they had gotten to a point that started like such an amazing journey, an amazing opportunity, in a very thriving business. I don't want to like downplay how well they have done in what they were doing. But sad in that their view on dealing with the public and dealing with their customers had become what it was. And you talk about resentment. That was very much apparent of, you know, we do this, but now it's a job. And business, just like our daily lives, when we feel like something's a job, it becomes painful. And nothing I do, I try to view as a job, but it becomes that when you build that resentment towards things. And so when you're building a small business, it's not 9 to 5. It is a lifestyle. It is everything. And so if you view it as work, it's going to be painful. Or at some point it will become painful. There's just no way around that because you have to put in that blood, sweat, and tears, if you will, right? So so let's talk about the beginning for a small business. I've had the benefit of owning a few businesses myself, and I think one of the scariest things
is the fear.
Mm-hmm.
It is the fear walking in the door. And in leadership, we face that all the time. You know, that fear can be a cause for analysis paralysis. And I think we probably see that a lot on our side of the house in commercial leasing, commercial property management. But my guess is analysis paralysis is pretty common with the people you work with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about it? Is it as common as I'm saying? I think first. Yeah.
So I think fear is a really sneaky thing that shows up in a lot of different ways that people may or may not realize. You know, and at the start in those early steps, it might not be as prevalent because honestly, like it's pretty easy to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you've got $15 or $30 and can get the business licenses, like you're in business, you're operating as a sole proprietor. So the barrier to entry is pretty low. Mm-hmm. But then it's okay, what comes next? Right? When I have to put my idea, when I have to put my product or my service out there, when I really have to start talking about and, you know, getting myself in front of a customer and into a market, that's where fear can really come into play.
Yeah.
Where people really start to doubt themselves and question themselves. Because a lot of people, and, you know, I've seen this a number of times in the center, there are high performing people.
Mm-hmm.
They are leaders in their organizations. And then they move into the business space where in a lot of ways, they're kind of starting from square one.
Yeah.
You know, in a completely different context where the skills that they have certainly have merit, but the context is totally different. And so how you have to use them and the approach to using them is completely different.
Yeah.
You know, working in an established business versus going to start your own business, you've got a customer base, you've got a constituency, you've got the framework and infrastructure around you.
Yeah.
When you move to doing it on your own, like you are all by yourself, and so you have to build all of those things.
That's right.
And so I think some people feel that fear and that paralysis of, can I really do this and put this out there? Are people really going to utilize my services? Are people going to buy this product?
Yeah.
You know, and some people hit the point where they're asking themselves, am I really able to do this?
Yeah.
You know, and there's that kind of that fear of, am I the person who I thought I was? I thought I was going to be good at this.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be really successful in doing this. You know, and that's the thing about business. Like, particularly if you're a business of one, you're everything.
Yep.
You're the CEO. You're the social media manager.
IT.
You're IT. You're your accountant. You're everything.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's really easy for that fear to start to sow doubts, where a person really begins to question themselves and ask, "Am I capable of doing this thing?"
Yeah, that's so true. You know, I think there's two dynamic forces that maybe are opposite of each other. There's the fear aspect that a lot of people face coming into anything.
Yeah.
You know, change can be difficult, but the reality is we all live in change. So I actually don't think we hate change. We love, someone used this description the other day. We love getting a new outfit. We love going to a new restaurant. Yeah. We love going on trips. Mm-hmm. That's change. Yeah. So we don't hate change.
Yeah. No one gives back the winning lottery ticket.
That's right. Yeah. So we love change. But what we don't love is uncomfortableness. And fear a lot of times is born out of being uncomfortable and not knowing and having this predestination of, oh, this is going to happen. If we knew in 5 years your business is going to be successful, we wouldn't be having a conversation, right? We'd be actioning. And that I think also translates a little bit more to me to grit. Yeah. But then there's this other side of the house, and this is the polar opposite where I've seen this happen a lot as well, and I imagine you have, and so I'd love to hear your insight into this, where people aren't surrounded by people who can also keep them grounded, and so they're jumping into situations either blindly or with a false sense of accomplishment or ability to accomplish, and not realizing that they're really going to set themselves up to be in a bad position. You know, I have felt the side of, hey, I want to start this business. And so I may have a friend or family member who's like, well, you're going to lose your safety net and you're not going to have this. And, you know, what are you going to do about college for your kids or medical or all this other stuff? So that's one side. And that's that fear part. But then there's this other side. It's like, that sounds like the best idea ever. Yes, you should go and make shoes and spend all your life savings to make these shoes that, you know, look so cool. But it's a false sense and you're not grounded with the resources or proper education or proper people around you to help you with that. So talk to me about that, because I think you see that too as well.
Yeah, very much so. You know, it's really easy to get excited about an idea and to only see the upside to that idea, where the downside can be masked. You know, either people don't see it, it's kind of in their blind spot, or, you know, they might not want to see it and really look at it. So it is really important to take that into consideration. I think a lot of times people, when they're looking at the upside and they're not looking at the downside, they're not asking themselves important questions of, is this something that I am really willing to commit to the next 2 to 3 years, even if it's not profitable?
Yeah.
Because the reality is that might be what it actually takes. You know, a common story in entrepreneurship again and again and again is how people started small, right? They took little steps to get started. And it's hard to recognize that, because often when we see them, where they are is these very successful business owners, right? And there's a narrative that we often have is like they kind of became that way overnight. But the reality of it is they started small and they just grew slowly.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of times where people, they just want to go for it.
Yeah.
You know, they want to burn the boats, be all in on things.
Yeah.
When the reality is it might be worth going slow.
Yeah.
You know, even if it feels painful to do that, even if it doesn't feel like it really matches your ambition, what you're ultimately able to get is a reality check on that business or that idea.
Yeah.
Do people really want what it is that you're selling?
Test the waters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's not uncommon for people to come in with an idea, you know, be very enthusiastic about it. You know, we'll have a conversation about like, who is this service for? You know, what is the target audience for this product? And it's tough to define that.
Yeah.
You know? And so part of what I will often advise is go talk to people about it.
Yep.
You know, go take small steps to test it.
Yep.
See if you can develop a customer base for this. You know, even if you have to do some things for free, pro bono, give out samples, you know, that might be some things that you want to consider just to start small and see if something is there.
Yeah.
Because the alternative of going all in, making big investments, you know, basically betting everything that you're going to come out on top can have some pretty serious long-term repercussions.
That's right.
Both personally and professionally for that person.
Yeah. And I do think there's a lot of personality driven decisions that happen there. And so I'm going to kind of clarify that a little bit. But I'd first like to say that that's very similar to a book. It's pretty old now. It's 10-ish years probably. It's called Quitter. I think 𝗂𝗲𝗶𝗵𝗽 wrote that book. And it was actually that exact process of like, hey, everyone talks about burn the ships, chase the dream, live your best life. And in reality is that's not how most of us can do that. And there's very few that I think ends up on the success side of that. And the stress you go through during that period, even if you come out on the success side, was it worth it? Yeah. And for many people, depending on where you are at in life, your risk tolerance lowers typically as you get older. And that is because, you know, today I have 3 beautiful children. My ability to risk at that scale was different when I was 22. Yeah. And so as people should be encouraged to go after, chase their dreams, start businesses, do those things. And we want that. But to help understand where they're at. And so I'm going to bring that back to personality. I think this is a anecdotal, non-scientifical analysis that I've had, but there's people I've worked with, including Leo, that when you meet these people, they have this, I used the word grit earlier in the podcast, ability to kind of stand in the face of fear and problems and challenges that come up and say, I can overcome, and there's nothing that will stop me from overcoming. And I only know a very small handful of people like that, maybe 3 max, but 2 for sure. And to me, I admire that. Reality is most of us don't have that. And that's a very rare thing. But those people to me can go from, used to describe a friend of mine that had that attribute. They would either be a millionaire or they'd be homeless. There was no in between. because they were so driven and so had so much grit to overcome things, but they were willing to bet it all because of that. And that was the only reason. And I think we do see some of that in some of our larger startup businesses that are successful. That attribute is there. And then there's others that took a lot smaller steps and it took a lot longer to get to there. But yeah, what do you think about grit when it comes to those things?
I think it's highly important. Whether that person is going all in at the start or whether they are taking those small steps, the likelihood is it's going to take longer than you think or longer than you want. And so that grit to actually persevere and be consistent in the effort that you're putting forward over time is incredibly important.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where it feels like you're hitting rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be those times where you will question everything about your decision to do this thing. And that's a normal part of the process, right? And it's really having that perspective to surf the waves of when things feel like they're going good and when there is momentum in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then when the swell evens out and it feels like nothing is happening or working in your favor.
Yeah.
That is part of the challenge. Right?
That's a great analogy there. Yeah.
And I think one of the under-discussed aspects of business ownership is that, nothing goes right all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be a surprise to anyone out there, but it is recognizing where you are in the process and how do you manage yourself through it.
Yeah.
Because one day things could feel like they're going great and you can't lose.
Yeah.
And the next day feels completely the opposite.
Yeah.
That you can't win and you're on the verge of losing everything.
Yeah.
So how do you have the skill to regulate yourself through those kinds of moments?
Yeah.
And a part of that is grit.
Yeah.
A part of that is the belief that, hey, the swell's gone down, but it was up before.
Yeah.
And so I believe that it's going to come back up.
Yeah.
And just that ability to keep consistent effort into what it is that you're doing to pursue your goals.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Tennessee Small Business Development Center is you also offer an informal accountability, if you will, right? I'm a big believer in anyone in any leadership position should have people around them that are holding them accountable and are able to speak truth when truth hurts. And especially in that business world, as a business owner, it's very easy to get caught up on, we have massive success. We're always going to have massive success. Or I'm facing a really big challenge and I have no one there to help support me out of this and push me through. So the people we surround ourselves is key to that. And I think y'all are kind of a partner in that in some ways, in the sense that we are a resource. You can come to us and offer that consulting if I'm not mistaken. And you probably have spent some time with some people in the depth of saying like, hey, look, here's some ideas of how you can get out of this. So what does accountability look like to you as far as maybe you as an individual, but also from your business perspective, being that director?
Yeah. Accountability is one of those things that pretty frequently comes up when people seek our services. And you ask them, what kind of support are you looking for from the Small Business Development Center? And they'll say accountability. Particularly if they're a business of one, they're looking for that support outside of them that cares about what they're doing.
Yeah.
That wants to know what they're doing and wants to know, did they do the things that they said they were going to do to reach their goals or move their business forward?
Yeah.
And sometimes that looks like, hey, just having that regular check-in to be like, we talked about these 3 things were going to happen over the last month. How's that coming along?
Yeah.
What does that progress look like? And sometimes it's getting the bigger goal from that person. It might be how much revenue they want to generate from their business, and then looking at their activities, looking at their business model and raising sometimes some tough questions about, all right, if you're doing this, this has a pretty clear path to this outcome.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere near what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So what other options can be explored that are going to actually help you realize the goals that you've said you wanted to achieve? And so that outside perspective can go a long way to a lot of people, and just staying accountable for the things that they've said are important to them, that they've said they wanted to achieve, and that they aren't like spending good time, money, and resources to do.
That's right. Yeah. We can fill our time with distractions and hide from our problems, but when you have someone who's like, hey, did you do this? It's hard to ignore that, right? Like we have to face the reality at that point.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Absolutely.
You have kind of someone to show up to and show what you've done.
That's right. Yeah.
Or haven't done.
And more times than not, I bet that's for me, I feel like it's that haven't done that is like, oh no, but it's also that jump to get me to do it. And that's also really, I think, a key part of that accountability and coaching in general, because coaching has a huge value that I think people skip over a lot of times. People I know who have done true professional coaching, and I know you're certified in that. There's this idea I can't afford it. And in some cases, yeah, it's hard. It does cost a lot. But the people I know who've really gotten success out of it are like, I wish I'd have done this at the very beginning or done it earlier. And a lot of that is someone helping you keep you accountable that also has knowledge to what you're doing. So that circle of influence that you're around, having people that are mentors, I think is super important. But once you can get to a point to add a coach, highly recommend that. I think it's something that's a game changer for a lot of people in leadership roles, but also in the small business world or business in general, kind of positions in life. So as a new owner, let's just focus on new owners or a business owner in general, small business owner. What do you see as some of those key traits that are, I'm going to call green flags for success?
Yeah. From the people who come into our center who they are waving those green flags, they are coming in very prepared and very realistic about what they're going to have to do. And what they're going to have to do doesn't necessarily mean the steps that they're going to have to take to form an LLC or get a business license, but they're willing and ready to take those steps to make some pretty significance in their business, both in terms of time and capital. So they're not going to come in and say, oh, there's magically going to be like some monies from somewhere that I'm going to be able to use to do this. They know that they're going to have to put something in for that. And typically they've been saving or they have a plan for how they're going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, in addition to that, before they've come to us, like in all honesty, a lot of people have done their homework.
Yeah.
You know, they've researched, they've talked to other people. They have a really good sense of what they're going to have to do.
That's great. Yeah.
You know, sometimes they come in with their business brand already established. You know, they're that far ahead and they're looking for some support to help accelerate them forward.
Yeah.
But for those people who come in who are realistic, you know, they know that it's gonna take a lot to get going.
Yeah.
You know, they come in prepared, really knowing that, hey, I've done some homework on this. I'm just not expecting that this is magically going to materialize.
Yeah.
And they're realistic about the time horizon for things.
Yeah.
You know, they're clear that this is going to be something they do for the long haul. They recognize that profitability is not something they're going to attain immediately.
Yeah.
And so they start to plan for, okay, how do I grow to get to that place? You know, and really think a time horizon of years.
Yeah.
And not just weeks or months.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting to net zero is it's just a great accomplishment in the beginning.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's flip it back over. What are the red flags that you see?
Yeah. So if someone is coming in and they're looking to move incredibly quickly because they have a great business idea that needs to exist immediately, and they haven't talked to anyone about it, they haven't really spent time in that space, there just is kind of this desire to make it exist in this sense that it's going to be incredibly profitable, incredibly quickly. That is a recipe for defeated expectations.
Yeah.
You know, that is someone who, despite how good the idea might be and how much value and validity it might actually have, is going to really struggle. Because if a business is expecting significant cash flow to be able to support itself, that cash flow might not be there.
Yeah.
And then it's really built itself on this foundation that doesn't exist. And so that's going to disappear really quickly. And it's going to be a very short run for that business.
Yeah.
So really the opposite of all those things. You know, if someone is coming in without the adequate resources, without really the time, without the persistence, the grit to really stick with it, those are some things that make starting a business challenging.
Yeah.
Not impossible. So I do want to be clear that if a person's in that situation, they could pull it off. They could really be successful.
Yeah.
But the likelihood is it's going to be a long road and a pretty challenging endeavor to ultimately get that business to where you think it should be.
Yeah. And that's probably very, very much true when you start talking about industries too, and the type of businesses people want to start. We see that, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but there's a large percentage of businesses that fail already in the first year. That number is even significantly higher for restaurants, for example. Restaurants are extremely low profit margins, extremely difficult to get efficient, and cost a lot of money up front to get into. So you have someone shows up, they're ready to start a business, they've done their homework, they've met with you. What do you tell them? Like, hey, this is what you need to expect for the next few years. What does that look like for someone who's kind of, I'm ready to launch?
Yeah, it's really about understanding their goals first. What is it that they're trying to accomplish through this business, and what have they done already? That kind of sets the milepost of where we're starting and where are we working towards. And from there, what we're really able to do is understand, well, what does this plan need to look like? And what are they able to invest themselves, both in terms of resources and capital, but also their time in order to move that forward. We really spend a lot of time too thinking about what hasn't been thought about yet. Where are there opportunities that might be on the table that haven't been explored, but also where might there be some concerns that need to be addressed early on?
Yeah.
And really what we want for that person is some kind of plan.
Yeah.
Plan doesn't mean that it has to be the permanent series of steps that they take moving forward.
Yeah.
But they've got something to do that intentionally guides their next steps.
Yeah.
Because what we want them to do is we want them to move forward.
Yeah.
We want them to start their business. We want them to reach those goals. But that can't happen if we really don't have a direction for what that needs to look like.
Yeah.
But also anticipation and preparation for what might get in the way and what might make it easier.
Yeah. There's so much there. Starting a business is a huge leap of faith in many ways, but preparation makes that jump a lot easier. And very excited that Clarksville has become a thriving community for small businesses. And, I get excited of what is coming here. We have a lot of outside groups coming here, but I get more excited to know what do we have here in our backyard that people are working on and they're getting ready to launch. There's a guy, a good friend of mine that I know that's been in the AI field and just developing some really cool stuff that I've never seen before. And he was based out of Clarksville. Recently just moved, but to know like, man, we have this talent, we have these people here, and all they need is maybe a little bit of extra help, which is what your center does in some cases. And some cases, hey, we'll come alongside you and help you a little bit more and push you up. And so I kind of want to, conclude with, what would be one piece of advice to someone starting a business that you have?
Yeah. I really think knowing that it's okay to start small. We have these expectations that we have to do really big, really grand things, and that doesn't have to be the case. And starting small could look like a lot of different things. It could be going out and talking to 10 people about your business idea to get feedback. It could be just trying to sell 5 of the product that you have, right? Here in Tennessee, Clarksville, Montgomery County, you get the runway that you can make up to $3,000 before you actually have to submit a business license.
Yeah.
So you've got some leeway to try some things.
Yeah.
So get out there, try some things, but don't put so much pressure on yourself to think that you have to hit it out of the park, and nail a grand slam on the first outing.
Yeah.
Start small. See what the reception looks like and just learn your way through every iteration.
Yeah. Well, to our audience, I think this is a great point. Starting small, even in leadership, is extremely important. And so as we gain influence, as we do the things that we do, starting small, getting people to buy in, testing, getting feedback, those are super crucial. And we've talked about that in past podcasts. That feedback loop is probably, for me, one of the biggest indicators of success. And so for a business, this is leadership. And this is why we do this podcast, because we believe leadership is a part of all of our lives, from an employee to a business owner, to someone who stays at home. Leadership should be something that we strive for. And so it's about starting small. What can I do today? Listening to this podcast, reading a book, doing those things lead to big results. We just don't see them yet. Yep. And so it takes a little bit of time, but just like when you try to lose weight, you stand on the scale every day. And it's defeating sometimes. Sometimes you go backwards a little bit. But in a month and 2 months and 3 months, you stand back and you're like, wow, this was built. Look what we did. If we could look at, just what 𝗟𝗄 Enterprises has done over the past few years, it's one of those things, just in the 7 years I've been here, where I look back and go, holy cow, but in the moment, some days it's going home defeated and like, man, we just didn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish today. And other days showing up and like, we did it. We did this small thing. And now it's led to here. So thank you so much for tuning in to Building Great People. We look forward to hearing from you next time. That's it for today's episode of Building Great People. Every leader has the power to shape the future by investing in and developing the people they lead. Keep leading with purpose, growing with heart, and empowering those around you. Strive to be the leader who elevates others, and together we'll continue building a better world. See you next time.